A wrap of your top stories of the morning. We are now learning the man who shot and killed a 69-year-old veteran is not going to face any charges. Joseph Lewis was killed at a York County Dollar Tree. The sheriff's office now says it was self-defense and that Lewis was making threats and punched a man before the shooting.
Good Thursday morning. In just a few hours, police will give us their first half of the year public safety report, crime statistics in the Queen City. Basically, they'll talk about areas of crime and whether they're up or down. We can tell you for the first quarter of the year, overall crime was down some 17%, but there was still a problem with teen violence as well as homicides. We'll see if those trends continue, and we'll let you know both here and online.
If you have a North Carolina DMV appointment today, you might want to bring some cash. A statewide outage is preventing credit card payments. Officials hope to have the problem fixed this morning, but you may want to bring cash just in case.
All right, not seeing any big problems besides this one right here. We are traffic alert because if you take I-485 between Providence and Pineville, you have some major problems this morning. It is completely closed at Johnston Road because of a serious accident. This is about a 3-mile backup that even goes past Ray Road. So Charlotte Fire says avoid the area at all costs. This is a multiple vehicle crash. At least one person with serious injuries, and our WCNC crew is actually headed to the scene. So hopefully we'll have more on that coming up on WCNC Plus. Your best alternate route this morning is just avoid that at all costs. Take Providence to Highway 51 to get right around it. Chris.
Thanks a lot, Majestic. What a mess there. Today, not too much of a mess. You will have some better storm chances north of I-40. 94, that's cool compared to 97, feeling like 105. True. I'm being overly optimistic. You are realistically going to be in the mid to the upper 90s over the next several days, feeling like 100 degrees plus. That's why our weather alert Friday through Monday, because we're in that danger zone.
All right. Check your neighbors. Check your pets as well. A reminder, the news does not end here. We're live all day with breaking news, weather, and traffic.
We're streaming right now on WCNC Plus.
You are streaming live right now on WCNC Plus at 7 a.m. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Megan Bragg in for Lisa Washington. She has the day off today, and we want to start out with that traffic impact alert on I-45. Majestic, what can you tell us right now?
Well, good morning, you guys. If you typically take I-485, you're going to want to really pay attention to this. This is south of Charlotte, where we are following a serious accident. You can see it here. It's between Pineville and Providence, and we now have a big backup because I-85, the inner loop right there, it is completely closed at Johnston Road, but it's backed up about 3 miles. You can see it here. That backup even takes you past Ray Road. So Charlotte Fire says that this is a multi-vehicle accident. At least one person does have some serious injuries. Avoid the area at all costs, and there is no set time for this to reopen, but this could be a couple of hours. And there's people actually out on the roads at I-485 just sitting there because the road is now completely blocked. So take your best alternate route this morning if you typically drive this way. You're going to want to just take Providence up to Highway 51. That'll get you right around it. So with that being said, also allow for some extra drive time this morning because that's going to take you a little while longer. In addition to that, we're also following this where we do have a stalled vehicle. It's at Chancellor Park Drive. There's a picture of it. Doesn't seem like it's impacting your morning commute too much right there. But if things change, we'll be sure to let you know. We'll have another update on that 485 closure there coming up in just a few minutes. But for now, Chris, how is the weather?
Well, better than traffic. What a mess. Thanks a lot, Majestic. Great reports there. Well, quick stat before we get going into high gear. We're officially halfway done with July. It's flying by, right? Well, this officially was the 7th hottest first half of July in Charlotte history. Last year at this point was the 3rd hottest, so not as hot as last year technically. But boy, have we been on quite the stretch recently. We've now had officially 30 90-degree days. We struggled to try to get to this point, and then once we did, we never looked back. Where 27 of those 30 days have been over the last 28 days, aka the last 4 weeks. We only had one day in the 80s over the last 28 days. Nuts. Yesterday officially was day 10 in a row of 90 plus, and we're going to continue that streak. Yesterday was kind of the bottom, 92. We'll be back at that point next Tuesday, but 94 is your high for today. So 94, 89, depends where you are. It's a little bit cloudier to the north and right around the I-40 corridor. That's also the best chance for rain. But I think we are going to spike to about that 102 mark as early as 4 p.m. So starting to be that dangerously hot threshold by the end of the day. And speaking of, that's the reason why we're going to go weather alert here in the near term. So as I mentioned, a closer look at how you're going to be feeling through the afternoon. Feeling like 99 degrees right around 2 p.m., 100 at 3, 102 at 4, and then back down through the 90s. Still feeling like 91 come 8 p.m. So we're officially weather alert starting tomorrow, but it's not for the entirety of the day. It's just between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. Once you get to about 103 or higher, that's where it's starting to become dangerously hot. It's at that point that heat exhaustion becomes actually likely at 103. 105 is also when the National Weather Service will issue a heat advisory, so going to be very close to that for tomorrow, and then I think just outside of the criteria for a orange shading over where you live. And then by tomorrow, look at the difference. It feels like 102 come at 2 p.m. It's actually still feeling like 101 at 6 p.m. But as you notice, 4 o'clock is kind of that magic hour. Unless you get a thunderstorm that's going to kick temperatures down, it's really anywhere between about 3 to 4 o'clock that we're typically going to have our hottest heat indices, sometimes as late as 5 o'clock. Let's talk about the storms now. We have a low chance for severe storms, I would say, north of the I-40 corridor. The rest of us just dealing with the general isolated scattered thunderstorms. But if we do have any storms, this area yellow, we do have a medium threshold for a severe storm right around the I-40 corridor. And then this is going to be a little less likely that we have any flooding rains for your Friday. Heading into your Saturday, though, a return to moisture, especially along the Virginia border. Heavy rain could lead to some more flash flooding, and then this starts to lift again for your Sunday. So let's go for today. As I mentioned, north of I-40, that's your best chance for storms. You're going to see why. Let me step out of the way so I'm not blocking the time on you. Scattered to widespread storms expected as early as about 2 to 3 o'clock. I think noon to 2 is where we first start seeing storms on the map. They become a little bit more numerous, anywhere from about 2 to 5. And I think the strongest storms that you're going to see is really closing in on about that 3 to 6 o'clock hour. Charlotte could really see storms at any point during the afternoon, but it's not just the afternoon. I think we're going to have one second coming of some storms west of I-77 starting off the evening. and they slowly drift their way further off towards the east. So still a chance for some pretty heavy rain through the rest of this evening. Some of us could be woken up by a loud boom. I think we're going to have some pretty active lightning associated with this as late as midnight and beyond. Now let's go to Friday. Friday, I don't think you have as many storms to the north, but they do start in the early afternoon, same type of zone. And then we see those isolated storms back and forth throughout the afternoon. And the storm potential, I think, could last as late as 11 p.m. I just don't think that we're seeing as many storms tomorrow. And then for your Saturday, this is actually trending in a really good direction. We see storms to the north, and then not as many here on the map. So even though we do have a higher chance for flash flooding, I'm not seeing anything super widespread. So I think most of your Saturday is trending dry. Same thing for your Sunday. But it is going to be hot. 94 feels like 102, as I mentioned, for today. And then after that, you're feeling anywhere from about 102 to 105 from your Friday through your Monday. Monday, we might kick off of this. There's a chance of a low pressure system that's going to roll in that could really take over our forecast. And it could even end our 90-degree streak. I have 91 right now for Tuesday, but coming up, I'm going to show you the future look at our best chances for rain and a closer look at our rain chances through the weekend. So I'll see you soon.
All right, Chris, thanks. A question we find ourselves asking a lot lately. Is crime getting better or worse here in Charlotte? Well, later today, we're expecting to get some firm numbers in CMPD's mid-year safety report.
Yeah, and it will give us a closer look at what's driving violence in our city and where things stand compared to last year. WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane has a look at what to expect and why it matters for your family's safety.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Good Thursday morning, everyone. This is basically a quality of life issue, such as noise that you might hear in this live shot. There's a lot of noise going on about people's concerns about crime, especially here in the Uptown area. Later today, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department will deliver its 2025 mid-year public safety report. That offers a snapshot of crime trends and public safety efforts across the Queen City for the first 6 months of the year. Department leaders will outline trends in violent crime, property offenses, and key public safety initiatives. They'll also speak about a couple of trends we hear too much about: violent crime, including teens, and homicides. The briefing comes amid ongoing concerns about policing youth violence and community engagement. It all comes at a time when a series of recent shootings and violent incidents in Uptown have sparked concerns about overall safety in the Queen City and the need for everyone to get involved, to work together to try to stop it.
If there are people that reach out to you that say that they don't tolerate this, that they will not accept this behavior, I don't think anybody accepts this behavior. I don't accept this behavior. I can assure you that none of our officers or detectives do. I want the community to be angry about this, because this is not something that anybody should have to tolerate.
And again, that meeting takes place at 10:30 this morning. We'll be in there and give you details here as well as on other social media platforms to give you an update about what police are saying as far as crime in the Queen City. We're right here at police headquarters. A little bit noisy this morning. Guys, we'll send it back to you.
7:08 right now on WCNC Plus. Charlotte Mayor Vi Laya is officially running for a 5th term. Right after she filed, her Republican challenger dropped out. Deadline for other candidates to file is tomorrow. Charlotte City Councilwoman Tijuana Brown running for a 2nd term as well. She previously made it clear she planned to run again despite a federal indictment against her. It claims she misused over $100,000 in COVID loans. She's pleaded not guilty to those charges.
In Washington, Republican lawmakers are breaking from President Trump and demanding that the Justice Department release the Epstein files.
As NBC's Alice Barr shows us how the president now lashing out at supporters of his own party.
As a rare rift divides MAGA world over the Jeffrey Epstein case, President Trump growing increasingly frustrated with some of his own supporters.
It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net.
In a lengthy post on social media disowning supporters he called weaklings for buying into what he terms BS. But while the president blames Democrats, right-wing influencers and some members of his own administration were among the loudest voices perpetuating conspiracy theories, believing that Epstein, who was charged and died by suicide in jail during the first Trump term, did not kill himself and that he left an incriminating client list. Here's FBI Director Kash Patel 2 years ago.
Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are.
President Trump made a campaign promise to release the Epstein files, but last week the Justice Department and FBI contradicted the swirling conspiracies and said they would not release more evidence. Attorney General Pam Bondi has been taking the heat from angered MAGA allies, with some now directed at the president himself.
If you talk about this, I'm going to excommunicate you. Well, you're not the Pope, bro.
Some Republican lawmakers calling for more disclosures.
The Epstein files need to be released.
I would say make it all public.
As President Trump stands by his attorney general.
She says, I gave you all the credible information.
And presses his base to move on. Multiple federal law enforcement officials tell NBC News the memo reaffirming Epstein was not murdered behind bars and that he did not keep a client list accurately describes the investigation's findings. President Trump says if the Attorney General does find more credible information, she should release it. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Big changes this morning along Interstate 95 in eastern North Carolina. Take a look at this. NCDOT crews are replacing Fort Liberty signs at more than 100 locations in the Fayetteville area. Now signs will say Fort Bragg once again. The change comes after the Department of Defense returned the base to its original name, this time in honor of World War II veteran Roland Bragg.
Still no response from FEMA this morning after North Carolina joined a dozen other states in a lawsuit. The suit targets FEMA's decision to end a program that would help with storm damage. Of course, the Tar Heel state still recovering from Chantal's impacts, Hurricane Helene last year. Attorney General Jeff Jackson joined us right here on WCNC Plus to discuss how this could impact flood recovery.
Here's the issue. This program, which was President Trump in his first term, is designed to protect our infrastructure against floods. And we're prone to those in North Carolina, as folks have recently seen. So a lot of this is about taking some critical infrastructure like pump stations, sewer lines, and moving them up above the floodplains. We have over 60 of these projects in North Carolina for which funding was designated. It's over $200 million, as you said, to the state, which is a whole lot of money. So we have filed suit, and we think we have a very strong legal case.
Does this have any impact, and I'm thinking of, because we're approaching a year since Helene hit Western North Carolina, does this have any impact on the recovery efforts there? And also, I'm thinking about the recent flooding in Central North Carolina. Will this cut in the program have any impact on those recovery efforts?
It's not going to affect recovery. It is going to affect the next flood. Specifically, you mentioned the flooding we had in the central part of the state recently. In Hillsborough, they had a few days where they couldn't treat their wastewater because the pump station there was flooded. Well, that pump station is on the list of projects that have been designated to receive funding, basically to move it above and out of the flood zone. We just know now in North Carolina which pieces of critical infrastructure are most vulnerable when there's a flood. We had our list. We gave it to this program, FEMA's program. They designated these places as being worthy of receiving funds, and now they've pulled the rug out.
So what happens in the meantime, as this plays out with the lawsuit, how does the state plan to fill the gap with this program now being cut?
Well, you're right. The lawsuit will take a while to resolve, but our specific request in this lawsuit is that the court treat this as an emergency, particularly because, we are entering, we are actually in the middle of hurricane season right now, but other municipalities have already put money into a lot of these projects in reliance of FEMA doing their end as they have pledged to do. So our lawsuit requests the court to treat this as an emergency, put an injunction in place, and basically tell FEMA, hey, while this lawsuit is pending, you cannot pull the rug out and take these funds away.
You can catch more exclusive interviews like that one right here on WCNC Plus every day. Later today, Governor Josh Stein is going to visit the town of Hot Springs in western North Carolina, part of his ongoing campaign to promote tourism in those areas really hit hard by Hurricane Helene. The initiative is called Rediscover the Unforgettable, and the goal is to encourage families to plan trips across the mountains this summer.
Dangerous tornadoes hitting parts of the Midwest. Already, at least 5 have been reported in Wisconsin. This is just one of them that touched down yesterday. You can see it right there. And the stretch of severe summer weather isn't slowing down. Shaquille Brewster reports from Wisconsin where those tornadoes touched down.
With sirens blaring in western Wisconsin, multiple reported tornadoes touching down. Warnings going out to anyone in the area.
If you are in Sauk City or Prairie du Sac, you better be in your basement right now or your safe spot because there was a confirmed tornado.
Holy moly! And despite the warnings, people out in fields capturing Mother Nature's power firsthand. Footage captured by drones showing the funnel clouds formation, debris swirling in the air, and the storm's path moving along a residential area.
Oh my God, it's in a house.
Further north in Wisconsin, a twister appearing to move right across the road. A man inside the car stunned.
Tornado! I got a tornado right in front of me. Tornado right in front of me. Right here, right here. We're right north of Wisconsin Dells. Tornado on the ground. Tornado on the ground. We got a tornado.
And tornadoes are not the only risk in the region. Torrential rain and severe storms also pounding the Midwest. 28 million people are under flood watches on alert from Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Virginia to Louisiana, where states along the Gulf Coast gear up for an increasing storm threat. Near Lafayette, Louisiana, preparations already underway for the possibility of a tropical depression. And after deadly flooding and record-setting rainfall earlier this week in the Northeast, sweltering temperatures are now taking over. Tens of millions across 23 states facing heat alerts today. Temperatures breaking 90 degrees in Chicago, St. Louis, and Little Rock, Arkansas.
Just trying to cool off and get the kids out of the house.
Talking about in other parts of the country, we ourselves getting ready for dangerous heat.
Yep, not boring, to say the least. And there's a chance we could have a heat advisory for tomorrow. And then we also have an increased flood threat because actually what happened the last time that we were around 105, 110, we saw widespread storms. Because think about it, how hot and humid it is, that's prime storm fuel. So we're going to have another chance at that. So I'm going to get to that here momentarily, but believe it or not, weather is not the major story right now. It's actually traffic. So, Majestic, we actually have a look of that incident, right?
Exactly. Our crews just got here on scene. This is I-485, the inner loop, where we've been following this very serious accident. You can see I-485 at Johnston Road is completely shut down. Several emergency responders are there on scene. We know that at least one person did have some serious injuries, but this was a multiple vehicle wreck here. You can see there are a lot of police officers there and they're trying to clear this, but still at this point it is completely blocked. So if your morning commute typically takes you on I-485, this is what it looks like. This is the southern portion of it, so south of Charlotte between Pineville and Providence. Lots of people there on scene trying to clear that so that we can continue to have traffic go back to where it needs to be. But this is our traffic alert. Why we are traffic alert. Again, I-485 is already a watch spot. No matter what day it is, it always gets jam-packed, and especially in this area. So not helpful that we have a big wreck that is continuing to be ongoing. Again, this is a live scene. Our crews are there. Let's switch it over to my live traffic maps because as you can see, there is a lot going on currently, but we're going to stick with what we know as we're looking at I-485. This is why we are traffic alert for you this morning. As we zoom it in, you can see exactly where it's at. It's out there on Johnston Road, but I noticed in that live look, it seems like there are cars getting off that exit there. It's going to be slow moving, but overall, you're just going to want to avoid the area if you can. Again, this is the inner loop of I-485, and right now, this backup is about 3.5 miles. You can see it there. That even takes you past Ray Road. We did find out from Charlotte Fire that, yes, this is a multiple vehicle crash. At least one person getting seriously injured. Finding your best alternate route is going to be the best way to get around this morning. So really what it looks like is you're going to take Providence up to Highway 51. That seems like that's going to be your best way to just avoid this ongoing situation. In addition to that, we're also following this I-77 northbound lanes. There's a big slowdown here. Left shoulder, it's blocked at Nations Ford Road. You can see that backup starting to build. I-77 northbound is already a watch spot in the morning time commute. So not helpful. We're even seeing that as we zoom it on out. You can see if you're coming in from York County, you're going to want to allow for a little bit of extra drive time. We'll have another update on that big accident again on I-485. That is why we are traffic alert. And hey, if you typically take Chancellor Park Drive, we're still following this stalled vehicle. You can see a picture of it there, but I'm still noticing mainly green, so not a big concern this morning. All right, Chris, we're getting close to the weekend. People want to know what's going on.
Well, a lot going on in traffic, but what's going on is we're going to be challenging some of these numbers. I don't think you're going to get to 110, but it was back in June. It was really from June 23rd to June 26th that we had a range of 100 to 110 degree heat indices. Well, actually, just earlier this week on Monday, we snuck up to 103, and we've done a 101 multiple times, but more recently, it's been July 8th and 9th. So once you get to 103, that's kind of the danger threshold. That's where heat exhaustion becomes a little bit more likely. So that's why we're always pinpointing 103, and that's why we're weather alert in the near term going forward. Here's a look at our peak heat index for each day going forward. Today, I think you get up to 102. It's really between 1 and 5 that is the biggest cause of concern. 105 is going to be the range up to about on Friday. I think the same thing, about 3 to 5 o'clock, we get around that range. We are on the cusp. We'll see if the National Weather Service is going to give us a heat advisory because of that. Wouldn't be surprised if at least some parts of the Carolinas will be under it. Not a guarantee that Mecklenburg County will be under it. 103 for your Saturday, 104 on Sunday. And this means you're feeling at least 100 degrees most afternoons between about 1 and 5. So stay weather alert. Where our temperatures go after this, there's only one day that has a chance to break this 90-degree streak. If we go the next 10, for one, it'll be one of the longest stretches that we've had over the last 10 years, but also it'll be within the top 10. The longest we've ever gone is 33 days in a row hitting 90 degrees plus. Well, that's really becoming the norm. But as far as our precipitation chances go, anytime you see a 20 to 30% chance, that's a typical July day, August day here in the Carolinas. We have so much moisture that anything goes. You can pop up a shower or a thunderstorm, but it becomes a little bit more likely on Monday heading into Tuesday, and then thereafter, you'll see those rain chances kind of fluctuate between that 20 to 40 range. Here's a look at the rain next week, though. So I already showed you the hour by hour recently what we're expecting in the near term, but you have a little trough, which is technically an area of low pressure. That starts to develop, and then it hovers off the coast. So we could have this surface low that's going to be right along the Carolina shoreline. So that means if you have a beach trip planned for Monday through Thursday of next week, not looking great. You are going to have some areas, especially in the Outer Banks, that's looking okay, but it's really the South Carolina shoreline that's biggest impacts here. But that's going to keep a little bit more of a widespread rain chance for mainly your Monday heading into Tuesday. Still not a guarantee. When you're this far out, the data isn't very detailed. You literally just have a big blob of green that oftentimes the light green can really mean a whole lot of nothing. Just letting you know we have a better chance for a more active pattern. Today, if there is any rain and storms, I think it's mainly going to be north of I-40, but it's in the zone that's seen the most rain in recent days. That's why they're under a medium threshold by the Weather Prediction Center. And then it starts to elevate to the northeast by your Friday. Still a chance for passing storms, don't get me wrong. And then more slow movers are going to be a possibility on your Saturday, especially a little bit closer to the Virginia border. So a closer look at your storm potential today. I think by noon, we're seeing our first round of storms up in the mountains between Taylorsville and Banner Elk. Once you get to 2, we're seeing isolated storms on the map. Yesterday, they popped up really between about noon and 2. If you live around Mint Hill, you know what I'm talking about, around 1 o'clock. But then, by the middle of the afternoon, it's still very isolated across Charlotte, but it's widespread now along the I-40 corridor and areas north. Now, especially northern Iredell County over to Taylorsville, that's where we're seeing the most intensity, and it could be an active evening. A lot of thunder and lightning on and off during this time frame. Real quick, another look at our 7-day forecast. Weather alert because of the heat. Friday through Monday with a chance for storms each and every day. More widespread rain chances Tuesday with a high of 91. So that's the only slight break that we have in the near term, and it's not really much of a break at all.
At the Surrey Sprinkle, time for On This Day in History, and it's all about this place right here. Very special day today, July 17th, 1955. Disneyland opened, the happiest place on earth. Some fun facts, 28,000 people attended opening day. The admission price, $1. Admission price today, $99. It had 18 attractions back in 1955. There are 51 attractions today. By the way, 14 of the original attractions are still running today. On this day in history, it was all about that guy right there, Walt Disney. Of course, Mickey Mouse on this day in history, 1955, Disneyland open. I'm Larry Sprinkle.
All right, congratulations to dad-to-be Pete Davidson. The comedian and actor is expecting his first child with girlfriend Elsie Hewitt. Hewitt confirmed the news on Instagram, posting a picture of an ultrasound and footage of the couple during an appointment. This will be their first child, and first child for both of them. The two were first linked back in March after being spotted together in Palm Beach.
Congrats to the new couple.
Yes.
And new parents, I should say. Live pictures right now over Uptown. Stand by. More weather and braking traffic as it happens down on 45. Majestic standing by. That's coming your way right here on WCNC Plus.
Good morning, everyone. We are traffic alert for you this morning as we're following a serious wreck. It's on I-485 between Pineville and Providence there. Here's a live look. Our crews are on scene here. We know that at least one person does have serious injuries, and this was a multiple vehicle accident completely shutting down I-485. So let's get to my map following this very carefully for you. This is going to be the big story that's impacting many of your morning commutes. You can see it right here again between Pineville and Providence, so south of Charlotte. As we zoom it in, it's at Johnston Road where the wreck currently is. They are asking to just avoid the area as this is still an ongoing, very active situation. And you can see this is about a 3.5 mile backup at this point. So your best alternate route this morning, if you typically take 485, will be just to get onto Providence and then up to Highway 51. In addition to that, we're following Independence for you this morning at Briar Creek Road. It's backed up to Albemarle Road. We'll have more on that coming up on WCNC Plus. But Chris, how's the weather for us this morning?
Hot with a chance for storms each and every day. So my job's pretty easy though, but quite the situation Majestic was just talking about. 91 to 97, but especially Friday through Monday, you have a chance of feeling like 103 plus. So stay weather alert, stay cool. Chance for storms, especially today, late day. We're live streaming right now on WCNC Plus. Join us now.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us live on WCNC Plus. The time now is 7:30, I should say, not 6:30. I'm Megan Bragan for Lisa Washington.
And I'm Ben Thompson. A real wake-up call this morning for parents across Charlotte. CMS on the verge of losing $12 million that helps pay for things that families really rely on, things like after-school care and student support services.
WCNC Charlotte's Destiny Richards is live this morning. And Destiny, the district is now calling on Congress to step and help.
Yeah, CMS is among many school districts nationwide that are potentially facing losses because of the frozen funds, these frozen funds from the U.S. Department of Education. It's billions of funding that they're holding back. And district leaders are saying that this is money, this $12 million is money that was promised to them, and without it, student success is really threatened. Now, CMS sent a letter, they have already sent this letter to the Department of Education calling the freeze unlawful and asking for the funds to be released. Now, district leaders are asking community members to contact members of Congress and state senators to help fight for this funding. If the funds remain frozen, schools nationwide may be forced to cut teacher salaries, reduce reading and math programs, and much more. Locally, CMS says that $12 million covers after-school care, tutoring, and support services for multilingual students.
I think there's a pattern that a certain population at times it seems that they're being targeted. We want to make sure that we have high quality teachers in every classroom, and losing these funds affects that in a serious way, which it ultimately affects student outcomes.
Rankin is a CMS board member, school board member, and he says that the district is working with the chief financial officer to potentially come up with contingency plans in case this funding is ultimately lost. Ben, Megan.
So we say they're appealing to Congress, but we also know Congress just approved some of this. So what avenue do they really have? Do we know?
Yeah, I know on the part of the CMS school board, they're really just wondering why this approved money is not being released to them. So it's a question mark on their end too. And this is really a challenge for CMS, especially as they're trying to set goals and guardrails for student success. They're trying to work to retain teachers, and potentially having to cut these programs is really a blow to them and one of the largest school districts in the Southeast. So I'm in a very diverse school district as well. So as for potential avenues, that is yet to be seen, but I know that they're questioning themselves why this is happening.
Sure, understandable. All right, Destiny Richards reporting live for us. Destiny, thanks. All right, let's get over to Majestic. She has a traffic impact alert on 45 Inner.
Good morning, everyone. 45. We do have some major problems out there. Our WCNC crew is there on scene. This is a live look of everything that's going on there. We've been following this now for at least the last 30 to 60 minutes for you. And as you can see, emergency responders are there on scene. We do know that this is a multiple vehicle accident. At least one person did go to the hospital with serious injuries. You can see a lot going on. This is still a very active place. This is, again, I-485, the inner loop there. It's south of Charlotte between Pineville and Providence here. I'm noticing, though, that those cars that were completely stopped for quite some time on I-485, they're actually able to get off the ramp. That's out there at Johnston Road. So let's break down what I'm looking at on my maps in addition to that live look. All right, so again, we're focusing on this wreck right here. There's a lot going on, but again, this is going to be south of Charlotte, I-485. We know that this is already a typical watch spot in the morning time commute as it gets jam-packed very quickly. So when we have an accident, this is making things even worse. This is a serious accident, again, happening at Johnston Road, I-485. Inner loop still completely closed at this point. And that backup, it's now over 3.5 miles taking you to Providence. But we do need to find you your best alternate route. You're going to want to avoid that spot specifically because it is still closed. Take Providence up to Highway 51. That'll help you get around it. But I'm noticing even as we zoom it in, a lot of people are starting starting to take Providence there, so that's going to even slow you down. However, that is your best alternate route. So allow for extra drive time if you do have to head out the door and you don't have any way else to go. Another thing that we're continuing to watch is Independence. Another big backup here. It's at Briar Creek Road. It's actually backed up to Albemarle Road. You can see all of the orange right there indicating that a lot of people, they're heading inbound. That is nothing out of the ordinary for this time of the day, but when there's an accident, that's really going to slow you down. So either allow for extra drive time or just take your best alternate route. That would be just taking Monroe Road. In addition to that one, I want to highlight one more. I-77 northbound, we have another slowdown. There's an accident. It's on the left-hand shoulder, though, so at least it's not on the main road. It's at Nations Ford Road at exit 4. You can still see that is backed up. So if you are coming in from York County heading inbound, again, this is what we're following as those slowdowns continue. We'll have another update coming up in just a few minutes, but for now, that's what I'm watching. Chris.
Thanks a lot, Majestic. Great update there. And then we have a lot of upper level clouds for the near term. And then down below, as you can see here for our Dallas camera, a decent amount of those stratus clouds mixing with some cumulus. So those low level clouds will eventually start to burn off and we'll see a lot more of this blue up above. So some of you might be having more of a cloudy view this morning. Many of us, though, are dealing with a nice mix of cloud and sunshine from the surface. 77 degrees still. We'll see that start to really jump up here momentarily for the 8 o'clock update. And before you know it, we'll be in the 80s and then the 90s, and then we're hitting the mid-90s instead of the lower 90s today. So if you're going golfing, expecting 86 degrees right around 11 a.m. Winds up to about 10 miles per hour, so you can't really blame the gusty wind for the bad slice you do. That's what I try to do. 20 to 30% chances for rain by the end of it, though, but I think it's mainly going to be off towards the north. This is a nightmare scenario trying to plan around some of these storms, but the good news is you can usually go inside for a little bit and they don't last too long when they're this isolated. When they're a little bit more widespread, as some areas are going to see later on today, that's a little bit tougher feat. So I'll get to that in a sec, but I want to talk about the main story. That's the heat. Yesterday we had a peak about 97. Earlier in the week we hit 103 on Monday. Well, I think you're going to feel the hottest right around the 4 o'clock hour, feeling like 102, and we're going to be challenging that 103 mark, and at that point, that's where heat exhaustion becomes likely, mainly between about 1 and 5. So we're weather alert for tomorrow. And each day will kind of be a weather alert status for at least your Saturday and Sunday. We might drop any of these off. It does look like it's going to be significantly cooler. But as of right now, the red bar you can see for the max hottest you're going to feel, 105 for your Friday. That's really close to a heat advisory. So we'll see if the National Weather Service is going to follow suit. But you just should be weather alert anyways. 103 to 104 on Saturday and Sunday. And the actual air temperature in the mid-90s. Now let's move over to your rain potential. What's interesting is whenever you're this hot and humid, if you can get the storms to break, it can actually lead to some of the biggest cluster of storms. So I wouldn't be surprised if you have some big time lightning with this. So it's going to be very active. Later on this evening, you might be surprised how loud the thunder is. You might have that thunder that really shakes the house and could even wake you up because this is going to last until about midnight. But it's right in this zone, this little area yellow. That's a medium threshold for some flooding. And that's also where we have the strongest threat for storms. That's where you have the heaviest rain rates. And we have something that's called training. There's two versions of flooding storms. There's anchored storms and there's training storms. An anchored one, you can kind of guess that, pretty much sits in place. And then there's more of the training where it's one after another to the north. Spotty showers and storms through the middle of the afternoon for the Charlotte area. These shouldn't last too long, but we're keeping that storm potential around well through the evening. And then it slowly starts to dissipate as we get to the latter part of the evening. By about 2 a.m., they're past and gone before we rinse and repeat by tomorrow. Coming up, I'll have your 7-day forecast. Also, look what's happening in the tropics and future rain chances through this coming weekend. See you soon.
All right, thanks, Chris. The family named as suspects in the Asha Degree case are speaking out for the first time. In September, Roy and Connie Dedman were listed as suspects with 5 properties connected to them being searched. But no one has been charged in the case. WCNC Charlotte's Anna King spoke with their spokesperson this morning who says the family is being threatened.
Frustrated and they're angry and they're scared.
25 long years and still no answers. Last September, a search warrant brought investigators to 5 properties across Cleveland, Lincoln, and Mecklenburg counties owned by the Dedman family. The Cleveland County Sheriff's Office says one key aspect of the search, this green AMC Rambler thought to be connected to Asha's disappearance.
They didn't own the car at the time Asha disappeared.
Records show the family didn't take ownership of the car until 1 month after Asha went missing.
The whole community has this theory of the crime. There's been threats. There's been people calling them horrible names.
The Deadman says since then they've been targets of hate, and this has gone too far. And while investigators continue to comb through evidence, the Degree family is still waiting for that one piece that could bring closure to years of heartache. Now, this is still an active investigation, and the reward for information leading to an arrest on this case now sits at $100,000. In Cleveland County, Anna King, WCNC Charlotte.
Yesterday marked 2 years since Allisha Watts was last seen alive. On July 16, 2023, Watts and her boyfriend, James Dunmore, had tickets for a comedy show at Bojangles Coliseum, but they never made it there. Her remains were found more than a month later near a cemetery in Montgomery County. Dunmore was last charged with her murder. He remains behind bars with his next hearing set for this September.
We're halfway through summer and some families are already thinking about back to school, not just to get a head start, but also to save some cash. Gordon Takamatsu reports.
Santiago Escobedo is still enjoying his summer vacation.
I might need some calculators.
But he walked us around Dollar King today to show us what will be on his radar.
If I get these small ones, probably for each class.
When he and his mom Minerva are shopping for his freshman year in high school in just a few weeks. In the past, they'd go to a big box store, Target, Walmart, Staples.
Maybe some scissors.
But ongoing inflation and new promised tariffs are driving families like his to discount stores like this. So we asked him if that matters.
No, not really. Just making sure I have pencils that are in my backpack and so I have them ready for school.
$8, but we're at $2.99. Dollar King's owner, David Mansourian, is counting on that approach. Families abandoning the big chains for substantially lower prices at stores like his, where his closeout and liquidation merchandise is less directly affected by tariffs, but just as good.
It's not stuff that you necessarily need a name brand for.
You don't. A pencil is a pencil. We're trying to make sure that we're there for the customer that can't afford to go there and spend.
The National Retail Federation says families with K through 12 students are expected to spend an average of nearly $900 on back to school this year. A CNBC report says the average cost per child will hit about $570. College students, $1,400. And not just because of tariffs. Lower income families are also budgeting for cuts in SNAP benefits and Medicaid. It all adds up.
$8 here, $5 for a folder, $3 for a pack of paper.
Elizabeth Dobbs works here, but is also a mom to a fifth grader. She says lots of this stuff is expendable anyway. Why spend more for something that won't last 2 weeks?
They lose it.
Break it.
Break it, yeah.
Supplies, clothing, shoes, and electronics. Look for back-to-school prices 20% higher than before the pandemic, says NBC, and certain items like backpacks 30% higher.
A new study this morning warns that Medicaid cuts in President Trump's big, beautiful bill could have deadly consequences. The JAMA Health Forum report warns cuts could lead to more than 1,000 additional deaths every year and nearly 100,000 more hospitalizations. It also predicts that more than 1.5 million people may delay getting medical care. But Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is pushing back. He says Medicaid won't be cut and that no one will die because of the bill.
7:43 right now on WCNC Plus. We are asking where's the money for folks living in small towns across the Carolinas needing health care. The president's recent big, beautiful bill set to slash health care funding, and it could hit rural hospitals the hardest. WCNC Charlotte's Trisha Woodard shows us what's changing.
In some rural communities, there's no skyscrapers or medical districts, just one hospital. And many of those rural facilities depend on one thing to keep their doors open: Medicaid. But now that Trump's big, beautiful bill will cut Medicaid reimbursements in the coming years, some hospitals are bracing for impact.
Are there provisions in the bill that are concerning? Yeah, there are. But our costs are increasing year over year with inflation and things of that nature. Then you end up with this widening gap between that portion of our revenue and then our cost to provide that care.
Scott Ed Broom is the CEO of MUSC Health Catawba Division, which includes Lancaster Medical Center and Chester Medical Center. He says being a part of a larger system gives them more financial stability.
Chester County benefits from being relatively close to Charlotte.
But others may not be so lucky.
Somewhere between 8 and 10% of our patient population are Medicaid beneficiaries. You get into a situation where a facility is 15%, 20%, 30%. Then 30% of their revenue base being impacted in this way in reductions over time is a big hit to their bottom line.
Broom says right now facilities are working ahead to look at things like cost structure and services.
And you begin by reducing those that are less profitable or unprofitable. To keep your doors open.
Now, certain cuts under the big, beautiful bill are years away in phases, but for rural hospitals already operating on razor-thin margins, the countdown is on. Back to you.
A new bill in South Carolina hopes to make childbirth a little easier for expecting moms. Lawmakers just introduced a new bill that would require insurance companies to cover doula services. Doulas aren't doctors, but they provide emotional, physical support before, during, and after birth. Advocates say it could mean fewer C-sections and better outcomes for both moms and babies.
7:46 now on WCNC Plus. An update now on severe weather around the country. This morning in New Jersey, one person dead, more than a dozen hurt after a lightning strike. It happened last night at an archery range. A severe thunderstorm warning was in effect when a bolt hit multiple people. Police say a 61-year-old man died at the scene. 13 others, including a 7-year-old, were taken to hospitals. Witnesses say the strike came out of nowhere.
Everything was great, and then the finger of God just came down and took a life. And I pray that everybody else that's now in the hospital are okay.
This is the second deadly lightning strike in New Jersey this month. Just this last week, a golfer was hit on a course there, and he died from his injuries this week. All right, turn it back over to Majestic Storm tracking a traffic impact alert on 45.
This has been ongoing for over an hour now. Our WCNC crews are there on scene. This is I-485. This is a very well-traveled place any time of the day, especially early in the morning. So very problematic if this is where you typically travel. This is south of Charlotte between Pineville and Matthews. You can see there are a lot of emergency responders there on scene trying to clear everything up. You can see as they're zooming it on in, trying to get that car loaded up and gone. We do have at least some knowledge knowing that this was a multiple vehicle accident. At least one person was sent to the hospital with serious injuries. Again, we've been covering this for over an hour now, so it is still blocked. This is I-485, the inner loop there. And at one point, cars were completely stopped there because of that blocked road. At this point now, as I zoom it out, you can see those cars are actually able to get off on the ramp. That's Johnston Road right there. But this is not going to be the best way to go still. If you typically take I-485 inner loop, let's get to your best alternate route. Switching it over to my live traffic map now. Let's get straight to that ongoing wreck. I know there's a lot going on my map, but again, putting things into perspective, south of Charlotte, zooming it in, this is still closed. I-485, the inner loop, where the accident did happen over an hour ago at Johnston Road. It's just a serious accident where at least one person does have some serious injuries. They were sent to the hospital. This backup is now 3.5 to 4 miles long. Again, you could see some cars were able to get off at that ramp at Johnston Road, but they're still suggesting to just avoid the area at all costs. It's still a very active place. Your best alternate route for you this morning is just to take Providence up to Highway 51. That'll get you around it. But as you can see, I zoomed it on in and you can see people are already taking Providence, and that red is indicating stop and go traffic as a lot of people are doing this. So just allow for plenty of extra drive time for your morning commute. A couple of other things that I want to break down for you. Independence right now, there is a big slowdown inbound. Independence is almost always a headache this time of the day, but even worse when there's an ongoing wreck. It's at Briar Creek Road. It's backed up past now Albemarle Road. So your best alternate route there is just to take Monroe Road. You can see a lot of green right there, so that should help to get you around it. Another thing that I'm carefully watching that just popped up not too long ago, there's a crash on I-85 southbound at exit 36. That's Brookshire Boulevard. You can see all of that red. They're indicating that cars are moving very, very slowly as well. And then one additional one, this one is also backed up traffic quite a bit. This is on I-77 this time, northbound. It's a slowdown. It's an accident, but they've been able to get the car off to the left-hand shoulder, so that is blocked. It's at Nations Ford Road. That's exit 4 here. Again, this is I-77 northbound, and this is a live look of I-77. Again, Nations Ford Road. So if you typically take this way, this is what your morning commute is going to look like. We're going to have another update on everything that's ongoing. Again, I-485, it is closed south of Charlotte between Pineville and Providence. We'll have another update coming up in just a few minutes. A lot going on across the area roadways. Chris, hopefully you can smile about the weather.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Okay.
No, seriously. Yeah, and Majestic said, I was like, what's happening today? But seriously, what's happening today? And what's been happening around the United States has been staggering. Now, being honest with you, we had just mentioned not too long ago about the lightning death that happened in New Jersey. Typically through this date, you usually have about an average of 10 lightning deaths through about the middle of July across the United States. But it's now been Georgia, New Jersey, and North Carolina that have each had 2 lightning fatalities. There's been 12 total, but we've seen a lot popping up recently, and we're heading into really some of the most active lightning months, which is typically about July and August, especially for the southeastern United States. As far as our lightning intensity today, it's really primarily north of I-40, but then that's one thing you always have to be weather aware about, is that any given summer day, you're gonna have a chance for some serious lightning, and it really becomes widespread about mid to late afternoon across our area. We're not looking at anything extreme, but still active lightning is gonna be a good possibility through the afternoon. I still think you're gonna have a few isolated big boomers through the middle of this coming evening, as that rain actually could last as late as midnight to 2 a.m. tonight. Let's go through our rain chances coming up in the near term. You're seeing your first signs of rain between about noon to 2. I think that we see a busier map between about 3 and 6 o'clock. There's also a chance for some stronger storms, especially the further north that you go. There's a little bit more lift and fuel up there, and some of the training rain events as well. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a flash flood warning or two just really north of I-40. This is only for a select few of us, so that's Alexander, northern Iredell County, Caldwell County, and then I would also say up into Watauga and Ash. The rest of us, I think you just have general summertime storms that are popping up. Still a chance for some gustier winds and some heavier rain. And then through the rest of this evening, clearing out my head so you can see the time there, from 9 to about midnight, we're going to see the final passes of these storms. This is a light to moderate rain with some embedded thunder, but there will be still some heavier downpours. And then that dissipates heading into the early morning hours. Now we get ready for round 2. Right around noon to 2 is where we're starting to fire up some storms. Mid to late afternoon looks to be a better time frame all over the place, so this isn't a guarantee. That's the type of forecast that different parts of the 45 loop could have different tails, from Concord to Matthews over to Paw Creek up in Huntersville, going to be all over the place. Real quick, your 7-day forecast, we can see those temperatures. The heat is the main story. Weather alert because of that heat, mid to the upper 90s, feeling like 100 plus, especially Friday. We could have a peak heat index around 105. Stay cool.
More issues at the North Carolina DMV this morning. If you have an appointment today, you might want to bring cash. Statewide outage preventing credit card payments. Officials hope to have it fixed this morning, but you may want to bring cash, as I just said, just in case. It's the latest frustration for folks living here in North Carolina because those long lines we've all talked about, we've all seen, and staffing shortages at those offices. Well, people here in North Carolina are still experiencing those long lines. To help, a new law allows folks to drive with an expired license for up to 2 years. But there are a lot of questions about just how far that extends. Megan spoke to experts to verify for us this morning.
Well, this law went into effect at the beginning of this month. It states people whose licenses expires on or after July 1st, 2025 can legally drive in North Carolina for an extra 2 years. However, there's still some confusion about this, so let's verify. Our sources for this are the law itself, NCDMV, NC Department of Transportation, and TSA. So let's take a look at the first question. Does this include commercial driver's licenses or suspended, revoked, or canceled licenses? This is actually going to go into that false category because the law clearly states this is only for standard passenger driver's licenses. The next question is, will you be able to use your expired license for identification purposes? That's going to stay right here because it depends. Right now, the DMV is advising people to renew their license just in case a company needs it for identification purposes. There is a chance an expired license may not be used for things like renting cars or opening bank loans. Now, according to TSA, you can fly with an expired ID up to 2 years after expiration, but remember, it needs to be a real ID. And finally, will your expired ID be valid in other states while driving? This is going to stay right here in this category because the NC Department of Transportation says it may not be recognized by other states. A lot of states have expired license laws, so you need to follow the laws of the state you are in. Of course, if you want something verified, I'd love to hear from you. You can email me at verify@wcnc.com. And we're going to take a quick break, but keep it right here on WCNC Plus at 7:56. We'll have a quick update on weather and traffic, and you'll see us stream those headlines right here as well.
Well, good morning, everyone. We have a traffic alert to let you know about. Our WCNC crews are here on scene. This is I-485 where there has been a serious accident. We've been following this now for over an hour. I-485, parts of it still being closed. You can see multiple emergency responders are there on scene. We know at least one person did get sent to the hospital with serious ongoing injuries. And this was a multiple vehicle accident, so a very active situation still. I-485, the inner loop here. Let's get to my traffic map so I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. You can see it here. It's south of Charlotte between Pineville and Providence. If this is your morning time commute, this is completely blocked still at this point at Johnston Road because of that serious crash. The backup is over 3.5 miles at this point, so avoid that area and take an alternate route. That best alternate route for you this morning is going to be to take Providence up to Highway 51, but notice Providence is already starting to build. So with that being said, a lot of people are heading that way. Allow for extra drive time to get to where you need to be. Independence is also backed up. We'll have more on this coming up on WCNC Plus. Chris.
Thanks a lot, Majestic. Well, plain and simple, it's going to be hot. Feeling like 102 today, 105 by tomorrow. Borderline heat advisory criteria, and anywhere from 102 to 104 through the weekend. So just stay weather alert, stay cool. We also have a chance for storms each and every day, especially north of I-40. As Majestic just said, we're live streaming on WCNC Plus right now. Hope to see you over there.
streaming live right now at 8 a.m. right here on WCNC Plus. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Megan Bragg, filling in for Lisa Washington.
Happening right now, folks across Charlotte joining together to honor the legacy of Congressman John Lewis.
Today marks 5 years since Lewis's death. These community marches are called Good Trouble Lives On. WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane is at the Park Road Shopping Center where demonstrations just started. Good morning, Richard.
Hey, good morning, Megan. Good morning, Ben. Good morning to all the folks out there in the Plus on this Thursday morning. You mentioned the fact that this is called in honor of John Lewis's death. We can tell you that he was known for his phrase, "We want to get in good trouble," and that is pretty much what's going on here today. There is another protest. This one, Charlotte Indivisible, is organized. This particular one, 22 locations throughout the Charlotte area. Folks on all four corners here at Park Road and Woodlawn, as you can see. Here protesting, trying to get their message across about what they think is so important. And we've got Dave with us right here as we come over here. Dave, why is it so important for you guys to be out here today? Tell us a little bit, first of all, why you're out here protesting.
Yeah, because we know the majority of Americans don't support the extremist anti-immigration policies that are in place today. We know the majority of Americans don't support the tax cuts for billionaires that cut services for people that really need them, for everyday Americans. And so we're here to stand up and speak out and encourage other people to stand up and speak out. In the spirit of John Lewis, make good trouble. We're here to make good trouble and encourage other people to do the same.
And just we said there are 22 locations I've heard in the Charlotte area alone. Yes. Just do you think this message resonates, and what's the goal of these protests? Yeah, so the goal is to make sure that we know they resonate, because we're hearing from people and we know from the polls that people don't support what's going on today, but not everybody believes it. The MAGA press makes it seem like they are the majority, and they're not the majority. So we're here to stand up and say, you're not alone, that the majority doesn't agree with what's happening right now today, doesn't agree with illegal immigration raids and all the other illegal things that are happening today. So yes, we know it resonates, and we know it makes a difference. And for people who say I'm hearing a lot of honking since I've been here, folks in support. What do you want people to do if they're in support? What do you do next? Absolutely. So we want people, if they're so inclined, to come out and join us to protest. We want them to know that using their voice is important. So register to vote, encourage other people to do the same, call their representatives and speak out and let their opinions be heard, so that people know that we don't support this administration and their policies that are not good for everyday Americans. And you guys are going to have a news conference later today. Tell us about that. At 10:30, 11:30? 11:30 at Pearl Street Park. Yes, a very short news conference with a couple of local speakers, emphasizing why this is about good trouble with John Lewis Memorial Day, and helping to share some of the same questions that you're asking today about why it's important. Okay, I thank you so much. I know he took a moment to speak to us. Said this is a very important message that he says, and the people who assembled here today, this is going on all around Charlotte. They say this is a message that everyone needs to hear, and so we thank you, Dave, so much for your time. And of course, as you heard him say, there will be a news conference held later today at Pearl Park. Of course, we'll have much more on that. As you can see, this all in honor of John Lewis, a man who actually met a few times, and his phrase, good trouble, resonates 5 years after his death. We're right here near the Woodlawn Shopping Center, I should say, at the intersections of Park Road and Woodlawn. Guys, we'll send it back to you.
Richard, if you can hear me beyond the honking. Yeah. You mentioned the good trouble is a phrase that the congressman was well known for. For folks who might not be familiar, explain what he meant by good trouble, as far as pushing for things you really believed in, even if it meant getting in some sort of trouble.
In trouble. Well, he's a member of the civil rights. He was known by Martin Luther King, called the boy from Troy. He actually was one of those folks who was there on the Edmund Pettus Bridge so many years ago, going across the bridge. He's known for civil disobedience, understanding that sometimes you may go to jail, sometimes you may run up against law enforcement because you're doing so for what he called good trouble. Words that resonated. He actually was on bus boycotts, beat up in Rock Hill. In 2008, I was there when the city of Rock Hill, not the people who were the ones responsible then, but the city of Rock Hill actually publicly apologized to the congressman, telling him they were sorry for what happened to him and the other freedom riders of that time. So this is what they call civil disobedience. This is a law-abiding situation here, but it's just in honor of the congressman and what he meant by the words "get in good trouble."
Yeah, as you keep speaking, we've been showing video of him there on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, as well as getting an award from President Barack Obama at the time. All right, Richard Devane reporting live for us there at Park Road Shopping Center. Richard, thank you.
Yes.
All right, turning back to traffic this morning, and a traffic impact alert that Majestic continues to follow after several hours.
It's still ongoing, Ben. We're following this as a live look. Our WCNC crew has made it there. This is I-485, the inner loop there south of Charlotte between Pineville and Providence, right there at Johnston Street exit. You can see the cars that were stopped on I-485 for quite some time. I mean, they were not moving at all because of this blocked road. Can now get off at that ramp there, but this is an ongoing, very active scene. They're asking you still to just avoid this area. We know multiple cars were involved in this, and at least one person was sent to the hospital with some serious ongoing injuries. So let's get to my traffic map. Still following that WARE traffic alert because of it. Again, I-485, the inner loop, it is completely closed south of Charlotte. I'm going to show you exactly where, because this is already a trouble spot most mornings because a lot of people take this way, of course. Not helpful when we have a serious ongoing wreck. Again, I-485 at Johnston Road was where that crash happened over an hour ago, almost 2 hours ago, and this backup is still about 3.5 miles. So avoiding this area, yes, that's going to be your best bet. Charlotte Fire says that yes, they can confirm that multiple cars were involved, and this is still an active scene. Your best bet for an alternate route is to just take Providence to Highway 51. You can see it there, but even as I zoom it in, you can tell a lot of people are actually taking Providence. It's starting to pop up more red, so just allow for extra drive time to get to where you need to be so you don't show up somewhere late. We're also following this I-77. There is a slowdown because of an earlier accident on Nations Ford Road that has since been cleared, but you can still see all of that orange and that red, and this is actually a live look of I-77 right around that same area. So cars are just moving. They're moving a little slow, though. It is cleared, but that is another watch spot that I'll keep you up to date with. That's what I have my eyes on for now. But Chris, give us an update for our weather. What's going on?
At least a little bit better, just trying to be your optimist. A little bit, maybe. Well, here's a great shot. This will always make you feel good. This is Beach Mountain. This is at Buckeye Lake. This is where the reservoir is. Oh, that's great, right? Breathtaking views. Lots of sunshine up there. However, we could have some active rain where you're just looking. And then our Dallas camera also could be pointing at some storms by the middle to latter part of the afternoon. 78 degrees is the current temperature. When you have a dew point at 73, that's making it 81. Now, if you keep this dew point for the afternoon, we hit 94. We're well not well into the hundreds, but I would say as much as 103 for our real feel. I think realistically it gets up to about 102 probably for a max. Seeing that right about 4 o'clock, 93, still a dew point about 70. Really a 73 dew point with say a high of 94 gets above 105 and we would have a heat advisory. We're close, just not quite. Speaking of, we are officially weather alert by tomorrow. We have a heat index getting up to about 103 by tomorrow. I think as much as 105. So just stay as cool as possible, especially between about 1 to 5 o'clock. That's where it's going to be most active. And the reason why we have this zone is 90 to 102. Hey, you still have to be cautious. Heat stroke, heat cramps, heat exhaustion, always possible, especially if you're in direct sunshine overexerting yourself. But this is the danger zone. That's when I mean this, when you're up to 103 to 124. And I always bring up the stat. If you're in direct sunshine, that actually makes you feel 10 to 15 degrees hotter. So if you feel 103, 15 degrees hotter in direct sunshine, you're actually close to 120 compared to actually 103. So that could lead to some heat exhaustion. Heat stroke is possible at this point, but it's really not until about 105 that heat stroke is highly likely. Luckily, we've never been up to that range in Charlotte history. 102 for a max today, but then after today, we're going weather alert with a chance of hitting that 103 mark. There's a chance we could drop this off early where Monday will not be included into our weather alert. But again, it's only for that period of the afternoon for about 4 hours. 102 the max today. Still could be a little bit hotter down towards the south. Raleigh's usually a little bit hotter for our heat index as well. So for tomorrow, 105. Wouldn't be surprised if at least this section of North Carolina is going to be under a heat advisory per the National Weather Service. It will be very close for some of our eastern zones. Just don't be surprised if you have some orange counties by tomorrow as we're talking about that advisory. And then close to 102 is where this model is showing for Saturday. But again, anywhere from 102 to even up to 105 is going to be a possibility during that stretch. Now let's shift over to our chance of strong storms. Oftentimes when you have near heat advisory like weather, it's hot, it's humid, and it can lead to some storms. So we have actually the severe potential off towards the north, and we also have a chance for some of those isolated scattered showers and thunderstorms. Today, we have actually a low to moderate threat for some flash flooding. Tomorrow, it's low mainly along the Virginia border. And it's much higher on Saturday, especially the further north that you go. But it's primarily today. Check this out. We're seeing scattered showers and storms first forming in the mountains, and then they start to push west to east. Now, as one storm moves after another, that could lead to some flash flooding. Meanwhile, Charlotte, I think primarily after 2 o'clock, starts to see 1 or 2 storms turn to, say, 3 or 4 to 5 to 6. Really, a lot of these popcorn variety, and I think they could become a little bit more widespread as we continue through the afternoon into the evening. I also think there's going to be a final passage of one last surge of showers and storms about mid to late evening, and then after midnight we're saying goodbye to those storms, and then multiple rounds after that. As far as our 7-day forecast goes, 97 tomorrow, feeling like 105, the mid-90s through Monday. The coolest day, quote, quote, is 91 on Tuesday. That's the best chance for widespread rain, and the only shot that we have of breaking our 90-degree stretch. I'll have a little bit more details about that tropical system and those future rain chances coming up here shortly.
All right, Chris, thanks. 8:11 right now on WCNC Plus. Charlotte Mayor Vi Lyles officially running for what will be her 5th term in office. Right after she filed, the Republican challenger dropped out of the race. The deadline for other candidates to file is by tomorrow. And Charlotte City Councilwoman Tijuana Brown also running for a 2nd term. Brown previously made it clear she was going to run again despite that federal indictment against her. It claims she misused over $100,000 in COVID loans. Brown's pleaded not guilty to those charges.
In Washington, Republican lawmakers are breaking from President Trump and demanding that the Justice Department releases the Epstein files.
NBC's Alice Barr shows us how the president is now lashing out at his own supporters in his own party.
As a rare rift divides MAGA world over the Jeffrey Epstein case, President Trump growing increasingly frustrated with some of his own supporters.
It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net.
In a lengthy post on social media disowning supporters he called weaklings for buying into what he terms BS. But while the president blames Democrats, right-wing influencers and some members of his own administration were among the loudest voices perpetuating conspiracy theories, believing that Epstein, who was charged and died by suicide in jail during the first Trump term, did not kill himself and that he left an incriminating client list. Here's FBI Director Kash Patel 2 years ago.
Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are.
President Trump made a campaign promise to release the Epstein files, but last week the Justice Department and FBI contradicted the swirling conspiracies and said they would not release more evidence. Attorney General Pam Bondi has been taking the heat from angered MAGA allies, with some now directed at the president himself.
If you talk about this, I'm going to excommunicate you. Well, you're not the Pope, bro.
Some Republican lawmakers calling for more disclosures.
The Epstein files need to be released.
I would say make it all public.
As President Trump stands by his attorney general.
She says, I gave you all the credible information.
And presses his base to move on. Multiple federal law enforcement officials tell NBC News the memo reaffirming Epstein was not murdered behind bars and that he did not keep a client list accurately describes the investigation's findings. President Trump says if the Attorney General does find more credible information, she should release it. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Well, big changes this morning along Interstate 95 in eastern North Carolina. Take a look at this. NCDOT crews are replacing 4 Liberty signs in more than 100 locations in Fayetteville area. Now signs will say Fort Bragg once again. The change comes after the Department of Defense returned the base to its original name, this time in honor of World War II veteran Roland Bragg.
Just about 8:15 right now here on WCNC Plus, and still no response from FEMA this morning after North Carolina joined a dozen other states in a lawsuit. The suit targets FEMA's decision to end a program that would help with storm damage. The Tar Heel state still recovering from Chantal, still recovering from Helene. Attorney General Jeff Jackson, who you just saw, joined us live right here on WCNC Plus to talk about how this could impact flood recovery.
Here's the issue. This program, which was President Trump in his first term, is designed to protect our infrastructure against floods. And we're prone to those in North Carolina, as folks have recently seen. So a lot of this is about taking some critical infrastructure like pump stations, sewer lines, and moving them up above the floodplains. We have over 60 of these projects in North Carolina for which funding was designated. It's over $200 million, as you said, to the state, which is a whole lot of money. So we have filed suit, and we think we have a very strong legal case.
Does this have any impact? And I'm thinking of, because we're approaching a year since Helene hit Western North Carolina. Does this have any impact on the recovery efforts there? And also, I'm thinking about the recent flooding in Central North Carolina. Will this cut in the program have any impact on those recovery efforts?
It's not going to affect recovery. It is going to affect the next flood. Specifically, you mentioned the flooding we had in the central part of the state recently. In Hillsborough, they had a few days where they couldn't treat their wastewater because the pump station there was flooded. Well, that pump station is on the list of projects that have been designated to receive funding, basically to move it above and out of the flood zone. We just know now in North Carolina which pieces of critical infrastructure are most vulnerable when there's a flood. We had our list. We gave it to this program, FEMA's program. They designated these places as being worthy of receiving funds, and now they've pulled the rug out.
So what happens in the meantime? As this plays out with the lawsuit, how does the state plan to fill the gap with this program now being cut?
Well, you're right. The lawsuit will take a while to resolve, but our specific request in this lawsuit is that the court treat this as an emergency, particularly because, we are entering, we are actually in the middle of hurricane season right now, but other municipalities have already put money into a lot of these projects in reliance of FEMA doing their end as they have pledged to do. So our lawsuit requests the court to treat this as an emergency, put an injunction in place, and basically tell FEMA, hey, while this lawsuit is pending, you cannot pull the rug out and take these funds away.
Attorney General Jeff Jackson right there. You can catch exclusive interviews just like that one every day right here on WCNC Plus. Later today, Governor Josh Stein is going to visit the town of Hot Springs in Western North Carolina, part of his ongoing campaign to promote tourism in areas impacted by Hurricane Helene. The initiative is called Rediscover the Unforgettable. The goal is to encourage families to plan trips across the mountains sometime this summer.
Dangerous tornadoes hitting parts of the Midwest. Already at least 5 have been reported in Wisconsin. This is just one of them that touched down yesterday. And the stretch of severe summer weather isn't slowing down. Shaquille Brewster reports from Wisconsin, where those tornadoes touched down.
With sirens blaring in western Wisconsin, multiple reported tornadoes touching down. Warnings going out to anyone in the area.
If you are in Sauk City or Prairie du Sac, you better be in your basement right now or your safe spot, because there was a confirmed tornado.
Holy moly! And despite the warnings, people out in fields capturing Mother Nature's power firsthand. Footage captured by drones showing the funnel clouds formation, debris swirling in the air, and the storm's path moving along a residential area.
Oh my God, it's in a house.
Further north in Wisconsin, a twister appearing to move right across the road. A man inside the car stunned.
I got a tornado right in front of me. Tornado right in front of me. Right here, right here. We're right north of Wisconsin Dells. Tornado on the ground. Tornado on the ground.
We got a tornado. And tornadoes are not the only risk in the region. Torrential rain and severe storms also pounding the Midwest. 28 million people are under flood watches, on alert from Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Virginia to Louisiana. where states along the Gulf Coast gear up for an increasing storm threat. Near Lafayette, Louisiana, preparations already underway for the possibility of a tropical depression. And after deadly flooding and record-setting rainfall earlier this week in the Northeast, sweltering temperatures are now taking over. Tens of millions across 23 states facing heat alerts today, temperatures breaking 90 degrees in Chicago, St. Louis, and Little Rock, Arkansas.
Just trying to cool off and get the kids out of the house.
Chris joins us right now, and severe weather all across the country.
Yeah.
It's crazy that you just coupled all that and was like, well, that was the last couple of months. Nope, that was just this week.
Right?
So, yeah, no, it just shows everything that's going on. And I think what's really interesting that you're seeing here is as far as those tornadoes are concerned, you're almost seeing these outbreaks like they were in spring because some of those areas are dealing with temperature fluctuations that we're almost going back to more unstable air moving all over. Meanwhile, you have the extreme heat. Multiple hundreds are going to be seen down to our south. We potentially could have a heat advisory by tomorrow. And then, oh yeah, we have constant flood chances, and we haven't even reached the peak of hurricane season. So it's
goodness.
Just stick with the forecast every day because it could be really wet and wild, and certainly hot in the near term. And speaking of wild, it has been one of the busiest traffic mornings we've seen.
Yeah.
Majestic, you're doing a great job of what's happening now.
Well, thank you. We've been following this ongoing wreck on I-485, the inner loop there south of Charlotte. I want to get straight to it because we do have some updates. Want to show you where it is on the map. So it's between Pineville and Providence. As we zoom it in, though, this crash has since been cleared, so making some improvements. Again, what we know is that it was a multiple vehicle crash. There was at least one person that was sent to the hospital with very serious injuries. This was closed for at least an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. It is cleared at this point, but I do want to point out that there is still a backup though. So the inner loop of I-485 still seeing that slowdown there, but the crash itself is cleared. In addition to that, want to walk you through a couple of other things that I'm following. I-77 inbound. It's always slow this time of the day, but it's extra slow because we just had an accident that was at Nations Ford Road. It has moved out. It's been pushed off to the side, so it has also been cleared. But this is a live look of I-77 near where it was at, so you can see it's also just going to be a slow Thursday morning commute for you. My live traffic map, there is a lot going on, but really those are the two biggest things that I'm following for you right now. This one here, we have a picture of what's going on. There's a crash here at Sugar Creek Road and W.T. Harris Boulevard. Still seeing mainly green around it, so I don't think your morning commute will be impacted too much by this point. And then this one here, our last one, is a crash on Billy Graham Parkway northbound at I-85. Following a lot going on this morning for your Thursday morning commute, so take it easy and drive safely. Chris.
Thanks a lot, Majestic. Yeah, weather not too wild for the time being, but hey, we still have storms coming a little bit later on. Yesterday officially was our 10th day in a row at 90 degrees. Now listen, you might be saying, Chris, it hits 90 pretty much every day during July. You are correct, but the streaks aren't as long as you think. The maximum we ever gone was back in 1993. We went 33 days in a row. There's usually like an 89 or an 88 that's sneaking in, and we should be averaging about 91. No. We've been averaging much hotter than that, where officially we've now had 30 90-degree days. That is not record-breaking through halfway through July. It is more than last year, but I think what's really interesting is 27 of the last 28 days have been 90 or above. That was June 19th to July 16th. Only one day hit 86. But if you average those 27 and 28 days together, it's actually an average high of 94, which is still well above normal. And if you take the average of everything, if you just factored the first 16 days of July, this is actually the 7th warmest first half of July in Charlotte history. And coincidentally, last year actually was the number 3 spot. So back-to-back years of a top 10 hot July. And the way things are going, probably going to stay on that list because today's 94, tomorrow's 97, and our lows are 5 degrees above normal pretty much over the next 10 days, and each day has a chance for scattered showers and storms. Back in June, where we hit the hottest stretch, it was really interesting because we had a lot of storms that were associated with that. The lightning was crazy, and actually the hotter you get, the more moisture in the air, that creates more electrons and typically a more active lightning scenario. So just letting you know, we are going weather alert starting tomorrow. That's Friday through the weekend, and we could include Monday into that mix. 1 to 5 o'clock is the main zone that you could hit anywhere from 100 to about 105 degrees. So keep that in mind. Try to stay as cool as possible because we're sticking in the 90s. Coolest high I have on the near term, 91 degrees next Tuesday.
All right, Chris, thanks. Live pictures over uptown on your Thursday morning. More news, weather, and breaking news coming your way right here on WCNC Plus.
Well, good morning, everybody. Today is going to be hotter than yesterday, 94 for a high. And there it is, back to that 100-degree mark. I think we're going to range anywhere from about 100 to 102 today, and then so it begins. Tomorrow, officially a weather alert day, and that's mainly for 1 to 6 o'clock. That's where we could range anywhere from about 102 to 105. Tomorrow, especially, that's the best chance that we could have heat advisories across both Carolinas. And then 102 today, a peak of 105 around Charlotte on Friday, and then really a range of about 102 to 104 weather alert stats through the weekend. And we could include Monday into that as well. 7-day forecast also showing those chances for storms. That storm potential, I think, is going to be on and off through the afternoon, heading through the evening. Same thing goes for your Friday, Saturday. So not only do you have that heat, you have the storms to go along with it. Stay weather alert through that stretch. Let's head over to Majestic, who's had quite the morning so far.
Good morning, everyone. If you've been with us, we've been following that ongoing wreck on I-485 inbound, the inner loop there. That has since actually been cleared. You can see it here between Pineville and Providence. It's cleared, but I'm still seeing a backup there. So if you don't want to deal with any of that, just take Providence up to Highway 51, although that's looking pretty slow going at this time as well. In addition to that, we're following I-77. There's a slowdown at Nations Ford Road because there was a previous accident. There's a live look outside. You can see it is busy on our Thursday morning. We're following a lot still, though. You can see on my map. So go ahead and join us on WCNC Plus. We're heading there right now with more details on what's going on, traffic and weather-wise. Hope to see you then.
Thank you for joining us live on WCNC Plus. Right now it's 8:30. I'm Megan Bragg filling in for Allisha Washington.
And I'm Ben Thompson. Happening right now, folks across Charlotte joining together to honor the legacy of Congressman John Lewis.
Today marks 5 years since Lewis's death. These community marches are called Good Trouble Lives On. WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane is at the Park Road Shopping Center where demonstrators just started. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning to you, Megan. Good morning, Ben. Good Thursday morning to all our folks on the Plus. Yeah, I'm standing here at the intersection of Woodlawn and Park Road, right near the Park Road Shopping Center. As you can see, all four corners, there are folks out making their voices known today. Charlotte Indivisible is actually the one who has organized this whole event today. They have some 22 spots all around Charlotte where folks are out speaking about how important it is for them to get their voices out, that they're not happy at the way things are going. We spoke with Dave and we spoke with Amy in the last half hour. There's some of the organizers here who talk to us about, they say, the fact that they're against the way the immigration policy is affecting certain people in the community. They're upset about certain bills that are affecting the pocketbooks of certain folks. They're upset about the way crime is being put on certain people. So they're out here today protesting, talking about how important it is to be here. We're going to just grab somebody real quick. You're waving. Tell me why it's so important for you to be here today.
You know, there's only so much one person can do. But given the circumstances that we're having to deal with, all of us these days, and getting worse, you got to do something. So complaining about it doesn't do me any good, or the world. Being here makes me feel good, stirs people up, makes me smile, because I'm happy to see changes happening in the right direction.
And I didn't ask you the question. What's your name and where are you from?
My name is Byron Walthall. I grew up here in Charlotte.
So just do you think this is resonating with folks? You hear a lot of folks honking, a lot of people waving at you?
I think we are not invisible if we're out here. It's hard to get visible, so we're visible.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And you stand out here holding this sign up. It's hot today.
Not too bad, actually. Not too bad.
This breeze is good.
Oh yeah, the breeze is good.
I asked just a few seconds ago, I asked everyone else, how important is it for you to be out here?
Oh my God, it's so important because I've just been at home just feeling kind of like hopeless, doom scrolling, and I'm like, what can I do now that I'm watching our democracy basically collapsing? And I'm a DC girl, I grew up in Bethesda, so all my family is federal workers and they're all great people. My dad was NIH. You know, so it's just breaking my heart what's happening. So anything I can do, like just to show up.
Do you think this is getting more people involved? Do you think this will have the effect? What effect do you think this will have?
I think I've noticed a big change from the last iteration of Trump, that there's a lot more like people getting involved and angry because they're cutting everything like Medicaid and education and there's just a lot going on that's making a lot of people really mad and want to do something about it.
What can you do? What can people do?
Show up, go call your senators and, just make your voice heard. Just don't sit back, and because that's what happened in Nazi Germany. A lot of good people just sat back and were like, okay, someone else is going to do something, or, but this is our chance to do something and stop all this horror.
And whenever you hear someone honk, what does that sound like? What does that sound like to you?
I love it. It just makes me so happy. It really helps that people care.
And there's someone honking and waving. There's other people honking. Just you guys this will go on today through the evening. You'll be here?
Well, it's all over town. There's one at Pearl Street at noon and Plaza Midwood in the afternoon. So it's a lot going on.
Thank you so much.
Out,
say your name and tell us where you're from.
I'm Kristen. I'm from Bethesda, Maryland, but I've lived in Charlotte for 25 years.
For 25 years. That's quite a long time. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
This is just what's going on. I'll stand over this way, let the sun hit me, because I know you can't see sometimes. This event is going on today throughout 22 areas in Charlotte. We know a number of places that there's on Queens. They're actually on Beatty Ford Road. Folks up protesting, letting their voices be heard, all in honor of the memory of Congressman John Lewis. Just one of several, almost 24 protests going on, demonstrations going on around our area. Guys?
All right, Richard Devane. noting that this is a left-leaning protest in a city like Charlotte, which is overwhelmingly blue. Not a big surprise, but in other cities and other towns, it might be a more right-leaning protest. Advocate
so give me a second.
Oh, you're fine, Richard. You're good. You're good. All right, Richard Devane reporting live for us there at Park Road Shopping Center. Richard, thanks, sir.
All right, let's take a look at.
All right, let's go ahead and do that. I want to give you a couple of updates of what's going on. We'll start with just big picture perspective, because really the big story this morning was the big closure on I-485 south of Charlotte between Pineville and Providence. That has since been cleared by this point. But notice there's still a lot of that backup that's slowing people down for their morning commute. So still, if you have to travel this way, it is cleared. It's just going to take a little longer than it typically should for this time of the day. So continuing to follow this is the most recent thing. Look at all of this red right here. It's a disabled truck. It's blocking the right lane on Brookshire Boulevard south at Mount Holly Hunters Road. So again, that's about a 2-mile backup right there. In addition to that, just off to the south, we're watching I-77 as it continues to move very slowly. There was an accident on Nations Ford Road. This is what it looks like right now. This is a live look of that specific spot where we're seeing I-77 inbound really just crawling. It's always a watch spot for your morning commute, as it's typically very slow, but it's not helpful when we do have those accidents. Out there towards Mount Holly, this is actually a picture that we just got in of that truck that's blocking the road right there inbound Brookshire Boulevard. So you can see how the traffic is really starting to build there. So we'll have another update on everything that I'm looking at for now. But really, I think that this is the biggest thing currently. If you're coming in from the north, we'll have another update for you in just a few minutes. Chris, what's going on? How's the weather this morning?
Well, great job today. That's a lot going on there. I know what that's like. Now, our heat impacts are only going to grow, and compared to yesterday we actually were only in the upper 90s. It wasn't that bad. And 1 to 5 o'clock, I think that's really the main zone that we're going to have the highest heat index per day. Here's the deal. When you get to 103, you've probably seen that number. Why 103? Well, just scientific studies and then also multiple papers said around 103, your heat exhaustion likelihood is definitely peaked, and you also have a better chance of heat stroke when you hit that temperature and a little bit higher. So once we get a little bit close to that point, especially 105, that's when the National Weather Service will issue a heat advisory. That's where you just have to be weather alert. So 105 looks to be the peak on Friday. So I think you will have some heat advisories across the Carolinas. Just depends on what counties the National Weather Service decides to put us in. But hey, close enough, honestly. 103 on Saturday and a peak of 104 on Sunday. So going forward, where have we been so far? Actually, just recently on Monday, July 14th, we hit 103 for a real feel. So if you remember what it's like, pretty much going to be there over the next few days. And then it was back in June from the 23rd to the 26th. We had every day reach 100 to about 105 degrees, but one day stood out from the rest. That was 110 heat index. We also had numerous storms those days, because when you're this hot and humid, it eventually leads to a lot of storms to pop up, and that's exactly what we're going to see today. Today, we're just still dealing with some cloud cover. If we didn't have the clouds up above, we would already be well into the 80s, but hey, we kind of are. Where 78 actually feels more like 81 degrees around the Charlotte area, feeling like 80 degrees right around Morganton. Right around lunchtime, ooh, that's a nice looking panini, right? Who's hungry? 86 degrees to about 88, feeling like 95 right around noon. And then you have the middle of the afternoon. Oh, there it is. There's that golden 100. So yeah, you're going to start to feel like 100 plus, really, I would say from about 3 to about 5 o'clock. And that's also where we're starting to open up our rain opportunity. Isolated, I know, what does that really mean? That just means about 20 to 30% of our map at any given point could have a pop-up shower or thunderstorm. It's going to be another day that some of us will get storms and a lot of us won't. But those that do get it will have a very, very quick downpour. But then there's also a chance that we could have multiple of these across one area, especially this zone. I would say the further north that you go, better chance right around the I-40 corridor that we could have those passing storms. So our excessive rain impacts are also a little bit elevated over the next next few days. We have a chance for some low-end flooding around the I-40 corridor by tomorrow, but then heading back in the weekend, it's certainly elevated as well. So let's get to today. You see some scattered showers and storms, mainly in this area of yellow that's north of I-40. You have more lift. It's just a better zone for storms, but then these little popcorn kernel type storms develop anytime between about 2 and 6 o'clock across the Charlotte area, but that doesn't mean that the window's closing. We could potentially have storms anywhere here on this map as late as 2 a.m., where I think you're going to have a second coming of another batch of storms really between about 6 and midnight before those start to fade out. So don't be surprised if you hear a couple of those isolated big boomers through the rest of the evening. And then by tomorrow, we're clearing things out. Real quick for the excessive rainfall outlook, we have a much higher chance for flooding up in the mountains later on today and the further north that you go. But any of those storms could potentially be slow moving. Our precipitation chances are ramping up. So the next time I'm going to see you, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the lightning threat, why we could see widespread rain the early part of next week. And I've, of course, had that extended forecast. I'll see you soon.
Chris, thanks. A real wake-up call this morning for parents across Charlotte. CMS on the verge of losing $12 million to help pay for programs families really rely on, things like after-school care and student support services.
Yeah, WCNC Charlotte's Destiny Richards is live this morning. And Destiny, the district is now calling on Congress to step in and help.
Yeah, CMS is in the same boat as a lot of school districts across the country, basically facing potential losses after the U.S. Department of Education froze billions in federal grant money. And the school district leaders here say this $12 million was something they were promised, and without it, their student success rates could face a potential hit. Now, CMS did send a letter to the Department of Education calling the freeze unlawful and asking for the funds to be released. Now, district leaders are asking community members to contact members of Congress and state senators to help fight for this funding. If the funds remain frozen, schools nationwide may be forced to cut teacher salaries, reduce reading and math programs, and much more. Locally, CMS says that $12 million covers after-school care, tutoring, and support services for multilingual students.
I think there's a pattern that a certain population at times it seems that they're being targeted. We want to make sure that we have high quality teachers in every classroom, and losing these funds affects that in a serious way, which it ultimately affects student outcomes.
And Rankin says the school district is working with the chief financial officer, working with its CFO to see if there are any potential contingency plans just in case that funding is ultimately lost. Ben, Megan.
I mean, the thing is $12 million, as I'm sure you can tell us, it can go a long way. I mean, because funding for CMS comes, a lot of folks might not realize, from several places. It comes from the state. It also comes from the county, supplements a lot of it as well. And so some national money comes in, and it is helpful.
Yeah, it definitely is. As we know, we've been following just locally how much funding is important to CMS this go around, just through the county and appealing for, extra money for teacher salaries. That's something that was really important to them. And of course, every year they set goals, what's called goals and guardrails for student success. And that's something that they really think is going to be an issue if funding does not come federally. So as it impacts multilingual students, possible ESL programs could be cut. So students who have English as their second language. And it's a very diverse school district, CMS, and it's one of the largest in the Southeast. So these impacts will be felt at every level. And obviously teacher retention is something they're trying to work on as well. So it's just kind of a wait and see moment.
And as we reported, also especially felt in some rural districts as well. All right, Destiny Richards reporting live for us this morning. Destiny, thank you.
The family named as suspects in the Asha Degree case are speaking out for the first time in September. Roy and Connie Dedman were listed as suspects with 5 properties connected to them being searched, but no one has been charged in the case. WCNC Charlotte's Anna King spoke with the Dedman's spokesperson, who says the family is being threatened.
Frustrated, and they're angry, and they're scared.
25 long years and still no answers.
Last September, a search warrant brought investigators to 5 properties across Cleveland, Lincoln, and Mecklenburg counties, owned by the Dedman family. The Cleveland County Sheriff's Office says one key aspect of the search, this green AMC Rambler thought to be connected to Asha's disappearance.
They didn't own the car at the time Asha disappeared.
Records show the family didn't take ownership of the car until 1 month after Asha went missing.
The whole community has this theory of the crime. There's been threats. There's been people calling them horrible names.
The Dedman says since then they've been targets of hate, and this has gone too far. And while investigators continue to comb through evidence, the Degree family is still waiting for that one piece that could bring closure to years of heartache. Now, this is still an active investigation, and the reward for information leading to an arrest on this case now sits at $100,000. In Cleveland County, Anna King, WCNC Charlotte.
8:45 right now here on WCNC Plus, and we are halfway through summer, and some families are ready to start thinking about back to school. Not just to get a head start, though, but to save some cash as well. Gordon Tokomatsu reports.
Santiago Escobedo is still enjoying his summer vacation.
I might need some calculators.
But he walked us around Dollar King today to show us what will be on his radar.
If I get these small ones, probably for each class.
When he and his mom Minerva are shopping for his freshman year in high school in just a few weeks. In the past, they'd go to a big box store, Target, Walmart, Staples.
Maybe some scissors.
But ongoing inflation and new promised tariffs are driving families like his to discount stores like this. So we asked him if that matters.
No, not really. Just making sure I have pencils that are in my backpack, and so I have them ready for school.
$8, but we're at $2.99.
Dollar King's owner, David Mansourian, is counting on that approach. Families abandoning the big chains for substantially lower prices at stores like his, where his closeout and liquidation merchandise is less directly affected by tariffs, but just as good.
It's not stuff that you necessarily need a name brand for.
You don't. A pencil is a pencil. We're trying to make sure that we're there for the customer that can't afford to go there and spend.
The National Retail Federation says families with K through 12 students are expected to spend an average of nearly $900 on back to school this year. A CNBC report says the average cost per child will hit about $570. College students, $1,400. And not just because of tariffs. Lower income families are also budgeting for cuts in SNAP benefits and Medicaid. It all adds up.
$8 here, $5 for a folder, $3 for a pack of paper.
Elizabeth Dobbs works here, but is also a mom to a 5th grader. She says lots of this stuff is expendable anyway. Why spend more for something that won't last 2 weeks?
They lose it.
Break it.
Break it, yeah.
Supplies, clothing, shoes, and electronics. Look for back-to-school prices 20% higher than before the pandemic, says NBC, and certain items like backpacks 30% higher.
A new study this morning warns that Medicaid cuts in President Trump's Big Beautiful Bill could have deadly consequences. The JAMA Health Forum report warns cuts could lead to more than 1,000 additional deaths every year and nearly 100,000 more hospitalizations. It also predicts that more than 1.5 million people may delay getting medical care. But Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is pushing back. He says Medicaid won't be cut and that no one will die because of the bill.
8:48 right now. We are asking where's the money for folks living in small towns across the Carolinas needing health care. The president's recent Big Beautiful Bill is set to slash health care funding, and it could hit rural hospitals the hardest. WCNC Charlotte's Tradisha Woodard shows us what's changing.
In some rural communities, there's no skyscrapers or medical districts, just one hospital. And many of those rural facilities depend on one thing to keep their doors open: Medicaid. But now that Trump's Big Beautiful Bill will cut Medicaid reimbursements in the coming years, some hospitals are bracing for impact.
Are there provisions in the bill that are concerning? Yeah. There are, but our costs are increasing year over year with inflation and things of that nature. Then you end up with this widening gap between that portion of our revenue and then our cost to provide that care.
Scott Broome is the CEO of MUSC Health Catawba Division, which includes Lancaster Medical Center and Chester Medical Center. He says being a part of a larger system gives them more financial stability.
Chester County benefits from being relatively close to Charlotte.
But others may not be so lucky.
Somewhere between 8 and 10% of our patient population are Medicaid beneficiaries. You get into a situation where a facility is 15%, 20%, 30%. Then 30% of their revenue base being impacted in this way in reductions over time is a big hit to their bottom line.
Broome says right now facilities are working ahead to look at things like cost structure and services.
And you begin by reducing those that are less profitable or unprofitable. To keep your doors open.
Now, certain cuts under the big, beautiful bill are years away in phases, but for rural hospitals already operating on razor-thin margins, the countdown is on. Back to you.
Thanks a lot, Tradisha. Oh, it's going to be hot, hot, hot. Yesterday was feeling like the upper 90s. Now, if you were able to get by on Monday was sneaky hot. We actually snuck up to that 103 mark, and I think we're going to be spiking to about 105 tomorrow, and then pretty much the way it felt on Monday the rest of the week. But 102 to 103, you don't notice the difference. It's pretty much the same. But once you get to 103, that's technically the danger zone where you have a higher chance for heat exhaustion. Don't overexert yourself. But hey, we're kind of used to this at this point in July, especially since 27 of the last 28 days have been 90 plus, averaging at 94 each and every afternoon, even though we have hit a spike to 100. The hottest part of the day, it looks to be about 3 to 5 today. For tomorrow, the same map. You can see a lot more pink boxes because we're feeling like 100 degrees realistically from 2 o'clock till 6 o'clock. So yikes, not a great time to be outside. I have to do some yard work. Maybe I can push that off. And that's the key. Just stay hydrated. You know the drill here, but it is just one of those sneaky hot type of deals. This would be the second biggest or longest stretch of multiple days feeling like 100 plus that we've had since about June 23rd to the 26th. As far as our storm chances go today, usually when it's this hot and humid, it's a better chance to fire up storms. But if you have a nearby trough and something to lift it up, that's what you have to the north. That's going to lead to a little more widespread activity. So we do have a chance for a strong thunderstorm to our north of I-40. And it's this area that I think as early as 2 o'clock. Noon to 2 is where you first see the signs of storms. Those are going to be everywhere. Now, for the Charlotte area, it's really about 1 to 6 that we're starting to see developing isolated storms. Notice how those little popcorn kernel guys, we literally sometimes call them pop-up storms or popcorn kernel storms. Those are going to be on and off throughout the rest of the afternoon. But there's a chance that these can cluster together. I think especially east of I-77. So some areas you're going to see more rain than others, seeing scattered rain here and there. Now, our isolated storm chance will still continue through the evening. By the time the sun is setting, we're going to have one last ditch effort of some energy that could allow for a couple of leftover big thunder boomers that are going to allow for those almost the windows to shake. This is very isolated, but I still think we have enough energy in the atmosphere at that point. And then that rain eventually is going to wind down after midnight. That's just one day. Now let's get to tomorrow. Tomorrow, same timing, right about noon to 2, there were popping up showers and storms off to the mountains, and then just isolated on and off storms throughout the day. And you notice our rain chances are coming up a little bit once you get to your Monday or Tuesday time frame. I told you I was going to tell you why. The reason why is the cold front to the north also is going to have this little guy that develops a little low pressure system. This one's going to be interesting to watch because say if this goes out into the Atlantic and sits here, drinks out of the Atlantic and gets enough rotation, it could actually have a chance to be a low end tropical system, but likely it's going to come back on shore. So not really seeing any major indications. That's just kind of an outlying example. But as long as that's going to stick around, we're seeing a better chance for rain, more clouds. And that's why we're back to the lower 90s Tuesday and Wednesday. But we're weather alert Friday through Monday with a chance of 102 to 105 for our heat index. It has been a crazy traffic day. Tell us one more time what's going on right now, Majestic.
All right, good morning, everyone. Live look outside I-77. This is what's going on. This is out towards Nations Ford Road. We had an accident there earlier. It has been pushed over to the side, but those backups are still ongoing. So again, I-77 inbound is going to be a slow morning commute for you. Another thing that we're really focusing on right now is this slowdown. Look at all of that red right there. It's a disabled truck. Right lane is currently blocked on the Brookshire Boulevard south at Holly Huntersville Road there. So one thing you're going to want to know is if you want to take that alternate route, they are letting you get off this ramp here, the Roswell's Ferry Road ramp. However, it's still very, very slow moving. So another thing you could do is just take Lucia River Bend Highway to Highway 73 to get around it. But that's going to really add on to your morning commute. It'll have to take you out to Mountain Island. Here's a look of what's currently going on. So again, a big semi truck is blocking one of the lanes there. This is inbound at Brookshire Boulevard, so allow for plenty of extra drive time if this is your morning commute.
All right, Majestic, thanks. Keep it right here on WCNC Plus. Up next, our live Impact News stream. Jane Monreal getting ready to sit down at the desk right there. A lot coming your way. Keep it right here on WCNC Plus throughout the day.
Good morning, everybody. Here's an interesting stat. 27 of the last 28 days have been 90 or above, and that's an average of 94 degrees each day. And today, 94, what do you know? And we will spike to about 100 plus for our real feel. The heat index really from about 4 to 6. And as we go through the next few days, we've got to stay weather alert Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, feeling like 103 to 105 for the maximum real feel. Beyond that, a little bit cooler, lower 90s by Tuesday and Wednesday, but stay cool in the meantime. Constant storms each day. Majestic.
All right, let's take a look at our traffic before you head out the door. This is I-77 inbound. It is moving slowly. We did have a recent accident. It is moving. It's just moving rather slowly out towards Nations Ford Road. Another thing I want to let you know about is we're actually watching this backup. Look at all of that red there. There's a disabled truck. Now the backup is almost 3 miles. The right-hand lane is blocked at Brookshire Boulevard south at Mount Holly Hunters Road. So if this is your morning commute, you can take Roswell's Ferry Road. They are letting people slowly get off there, or you can head towards Mountain Island. But this is what it looks like currently from our live picture.